All right, I see the recording blinking. So San Jose State University team, synthetic data, over to you.
Okay. Yep. So today we'll be presenting our synthetic data research. Start off with the table of contents. We'll first be introducing our team and then moving on to our project overview and scope, as well as our key stakeholders, problem and importance, information architecture, solution demo, and lastly, risk assessment and management. So here's our team members. We have Calvin Tang, who's been working as our project manager, myself as a program manager, An Liu as our technical lead and research analyst, Anu Anatan as our project coordinator and research analyst as well, and Sydney Wu as our project designer and research analyst. So we saw that ISSIP was seeking to increase the number and success rate of collaboration between industry and university students, particularly for student projects. And the main issue that they were running into was that these collaborations were often limited by the lack of accessible, shareable data, as well as models. And one of the main reasons for this is that many companies rely on restricted confidential data sets that they don't necessarily feel comfortable sharing. So the objective of our project excuse me, was to explore the benefits and challenges of synthetic data for service systems innovations using multiple modern AI tools. And our goal was to demonstrate how student teams can collaborate effectively with industry professionals while also being able to avoid the issues of sharing confidential data. So the scope of our project included designing and creating synthetic data sets that resemble data from real-world service system while maintaining the privacy necessary, as well as use AI tools such as ChatGPT and Gemini and Claude, to name a few, for data set creation, model building, and validation. It also included incorporating data sets in models that represented service system challenges related to industry, as well as demonstrating 3 or more case studies that showcase developments in service systems along with the synthetic data sets that went along with those case studies. And lastly, uploading synthetic data sets, models, and documentation for public and ISSIP use.
The key stakeholders of this project is first ISSIP, the International Society for Service Innovation Professionals. It is an professional association committed to advancing people, innovation to benefit people, business, and society. Second, we have our project sponsor, Mr. James Bower, who is ISSIP's co-founder and board secretary / treasurer. And lastly, we have all service system users.
Okay, so for problem and importance, real world service data is one of the biggest bottlenecks in industry university collaboration. Even when companies want to work with students, their data is often restricted because of privacy laws, ethical concerns, and confidentiality agreements. So even if we have the skills and tools to innovate, a lot of the real data sets we need simply can't be shared. This creates a major challenge. Innovation slows down, collaboration becomes limited, and projects end up operating with incomplete or artificial examples. That's where synthetic data becomes valuable. Synthetic data mimics the patterns and structure of real data without exposing anything sensitive. It gives us a safe environment to experiment, test models, and build realistic case studies, all without violating privacy. For ISSIP's mission, this is especially important because it allows student teams and industry partners to collaborate effectively without worrying about data leakage or compliance issues. Overall, using synthetic data removes the biggest barrier to innovation and allows us to move forward faster, more safely, and with more flexibility.
So this graphic here shows the flow of information between our team and ISSIP. That included the use of 5 different AI tools, case study visualizations, and applications like GitHub and Slack for collaboration and communication.
So I'm going to be talking about 2 of the case studies that I've done. So the NIST, National Institute of Standards and Technology. So this case study highlights a core challenge of organizations often wanting to collaborate, but they have privacy regulations stopping them to share sensitive data sets. So NIST explains how synthetic data and can replicate the patterns of real data without exposing any real individuals. And they want to introduce differential privacy as an added safeguard that mathematically guarantees privacy protection. And they want to create a national challenge in 2018 to improve differentially private synthetic data methods. And the big takeaway from this case study is that synthetic data helps teams collaborate safely by balancing privacy with practical usefulness. And then as you can see in this slide, I generated with Claude AI a comic strip showing the NIST case study as a visual story. As you see, it's like 6 panels, and it's talking about how the organization needs help building a prediction model but they can't share their real data because of their privacy laws, and some data is locked down. And then we have a team that helps propose a differential privacy tool to generate synthetic data based on their real data set without leaking any private information. Sorry, this also allows the external team to train a model safely. So this helps like everyone win. There's no one getting exposed, no data getting exposed, and not violating any privacy. In my next case study, the Utrecht University synthetic data. So this case study shifts to a more compliance-focused perspective under the GDPR, the General Data Protection Regulation. This case study explains how synthetic data fits with European privacy laws, and they help clarify that synthetic data isn't the same as an anonymization or a pseudo-anonymization. They highlight when synthetic data is useful, like for research, testing, workflows, or sharing data sets safely. They also emphasize that synthetic data isn't automatically risk-free. It's poorly generated, and it can also leak patterns like real data. And a key takeaway from this case study is that synthetic data helps support GDPR principles like data minimization, but it still needs proper risk management. Oh, sorry, assessment. And then in this comic strip, which was helped generated with the Microsoft Copilot AI, as you can see, it is a 4-panel, and it's saying that a team needs predictive insights, but real data contains personal information. The team wants to help predict outcomes, but they can't use real data, so they want to try to create synthetic data. But without this data, they're stuck and they can't really train or validate their model. So they suggest creating synthetic data that helps mirror their real patterns without leaking any privacy and sensitive data. So the team prototypes their model using synthetic data sets, which keeps everything compliant with the GDPR. And later, the organization validates the model internally using the real data set, and privacy is never compromised. So this helps reinforce the idea that synthetic data enables collaboration without breaking any privacy rules or leaking any private data.
All right, so to continue along with our third case study, it is based on the World Economic Forum. It explores how synthetic data supports privacy-preserving innovations and how it can be a trustworthy source for global data ecosystems. Specifically, like an example that we were looking towards would be Kaggle, and how a community-based forum could have data sets be used for regular student projects in collaboration with companies. This would target a lot of policymakers, regulators, executives, and a lot of AI governance professionals. This would, based on the article and what it entails, a lot of it defines synthetic, organic, or simulated data sets, basically explaining the differences between the three. And it presents a real world use cases across in other fields outside of innovation, such as healthcare, finance, or company mobility. This would also like highlight a lot of strategies addressing bias, provenance, and trust within recommendations on responsible adaptation based on different materials and even like strategies that companies would want to take steps to achieve. And the biggest takeaway is like that synthetic data is a key enabler of ethical and privacy safe innovation, requiring a strong oversight, governance, and transparency for the user and also for the people involved in the process. And to show the graphic next, we decided to use Google Gemini in this case. Throughout the case studies, we are showcasing the 4 AI agent tools. In this case, it is Google Gemini. You can see how the person involved can't have access to the real data because it is scarce and private for the company and can't be released due to proprietary data laws and etc. So they would use a synthetic data generator using AI agent tools to create artificial data to mimic the real data. Even though it might not be exact, but it creates um, the it creates a similar enough data set to mimic the real model for the training in any adaptation. And moving along with the fourth comic strip. So the fourth case study is mainly involving the previous student project group that I was involved in. This would be Path Guardian, a mobile app prototype that uses AI to improve upon urban road safety for cyclists and pedestrians. This would help city planners, transportation agencies, civic tech partners, as well as community advocacies for everyday road users. This would also help out first responders to finding the hazard and getting it resolved to inform the community on whether or not it is safe to travel at that specific area or not. To describe how the app works, the app would detect and report hazards in real time using computer vision, text generation, and notification systems. This would we decided to emphasize on more ethical design, including privacy protection, data transparency for the user, and being fair in the classification of what is a hazard and what is not defined as a hazard through the use of AI. And we decided to use mainly OpenAI API agent tools for all of the in-app development. And most of the data sets that we decided to use were generated using OpenAI ChatGPT. And the biggest takeaway of Path Guardian is that it actually shows how AI can enhance civic safety and sustainability through responsible community-driven innovation for its users, as well as in working in collaboration with the city. It would also help the communities to stay safe for parents, cyclists, pedestrians, etc. And for the comic strip, we decided to use ChatGPT. This kind of simulates the ideal situation that the student project teams would want to go through. Specifically for the group that I was in, we did not have a project sponsor or a mentor to oversee the process, so it did make things a little difficult while handling synthetic data sets as well as improving the use of AI in developing an app for this specific scenario. So you can see how they need a good algorithm for predicting project success, and that data cannot be like given to student teams since they're not involved with the company, but the students can generate a synthetic data set which can mimic the scenario at hand. And for a little bit of a background on why we chose these comic strips and why specifically those AI agent tools, Claude looks more professional and definitely more business corporation coded in comparison to the other 5 that we were using. I believe Microsoft Copilot and Google Gemini and ChatGPT all have the more educational, like comic strip look to it. Even though I did ran into some issues on misspellings and sometimes it would be generated in a different language other than English. So we would just have to troubleshoot that and add into our prompt to keep it in English. and be more specific on it. And for DuckDuckGo, that one would generate the HTML code, but you would need to run it through VS Code to generate the actual image. So if, let's say, someone doesn't have any coding experience or sorts, it would be very difficult for them to understand how to have the visual graphic pulled up outside of the other four AI agent tools.
Okay. For our project, we wanted to make sure we were prepared for any obstacles that could slow us down. So we built a clear risk assessment and mitigation plan. One of the biggest risks was AI tool downtime, since we heavily relied on GPT, Claude, and Gemini. Any outage could stop our work. To prevent that, we identified multiple backup tools and made sure we could switch quickly if needed. Another major risk was inconsistent or low quality synthetic data. Because synthetic outputs don't always match real-world patterns, we put validation steps in place. Things like statistical checks and pattern comparisons to make sure our datasets stayed realistic. We also accounted for ethical and privacy risks, especially since synthetic data still needs to follow NIST and ISSIP guidelines. Time constraints are also another high impact risk, especially during midterms. So we use weekly milestones and peer reviews to stay on schedule. Finally, with everyone juggling classes and having different availability, we set weekly virtual meetings and share documentation to keep collaboration smooth. Overall, by identifying these risks early and putting strong mitigation steps in place, we were able to keep the project on track and deliver a clean, reliable final product. And thank you for listening.
Great work, team. Thanks. And thanks on behalf of ISSIP. This is really helpful because ISSIP needs to explore this, and you've really done a great job of getting us started exploring this. So I just have two questions that I would like to ask and get each of you to respond to. I think I'll go with Orion, and I'll just work my way down the list I see on my computer, starting with Orion. But the two questions are, Orion, and each of you, what's the most surprising thing that you learned about synthetic data doing this work? And how do you think in your career, because you're a student graduating, so you're still early in your career, how do you think AI is going to impact your career going forward? What role will AI have in your career? So, surprising synthetic data set, most surprising for you, and the future of AI in your career.
I would say the most surprising thing would be, depending on the data set, how complex some of the, I guess, measures you would have to get within this data set. And what I mean by that is, for example, like some measures that you'd want to be the same as like average or range or some kind of distribution. I think depending on what the data sets are being used, like for example, one that I was looking at, it was a synthetic data set based on like earthquake information. And so I found that a lot of the LLMs that we used to try to generate synthetic data set for that was not necessarily the most successful just because of how complex it was. But I guess more interesting to me was that there are other tools that you can potentially use to generate synthetic data sets, but those are a lot more complicated and involve a lot more coding. So I'd say that would be the most surprising thing. In terms of AI impact on my future, excuse me, on my future career, I would say one major thing would be that AI would be able to automate a lot of the more sort of like menial tasks, maybe not menial, but some of the more like busy work that you'd have to do. For example, like the internship I worked over summer, a lot of the work I feel like could be automated through AI. It's not really at a level like yet that I've seen where majority of it can be automated, but it does seem like there's a lot of improvement that can be made. To the point where I feel like the average person's work might end up having to be a bit more of like a high level decision making and creative, and where AI can do sort of most of the busy work for you.
Great. Thanks for sharing that, Orion. Anlu, what was the surprising thing about synthetic data sets, and how do you think AI is going to impact your future career?
The most surprising thing that I found working on this project, as well as doing the research on synthetic data set, would be how how much you can adapt and also change using the synthetic data set. Especially looking back on my previous project, there's so much I could have added on in comparison to what has happened, and learning about the three different data set that could be generated through it. Like there's organic data as well as synthetic data and simulated data, or even
Mhm.
like AI generated data.
Yep.
That was the one that we were mainly using.
Mhm.
A lot of it could just be transferable, and the knowledge is so good and impactful for student teams as well as working in collaboration with companies. A lot of it could be resolved through working with one person who's actually working for the company, and then overseeing student teams would make it very much more effective in that project planning basis, as well as the execution of it. Um, and for how AI would affect my future career, I would say like what Orion said earlier, a lot of the tedious tasks could be automated. A lot of the busy tasks could be automated. Um, I see how AI makes makes a lot of things more convenient, but at the same time, through my experience in data set generation and even generating the comic strips, there were a lot of errors that came
Right.
up.
Right.
Even using the same prompts that you provided us, Jim,
Mhm.
I still had to go through it, relook over it, and run it through again with even using a different AI agent tool to fix up fix up the mistakes and errors that the original one made. It's
Mhm.
just a lot of work, and
A lot
it's
of
just
work.
up to it's just up to the user's discretion and creativity to get that mixed fixed up, or use their best course of judgment on how to use AI, because you can't just copy and paste, and it's
Right.
not like your resolution or solve all be all.
Yep. Thanks. Thanks. So on Nujantan, what was surprising for you, and how do you think it'll impact your career AI?
I think the first starting off that was most surprising to me was how much of research there was for synthetic data already. I
Mhm.
really came into the project just thinking we really have to create our own data sets and, do a lot of our own research from scratch. But when you, Jim, show us, a lot of references that we can check out, I thought it was amazing how
How
um,
much was there?
yeah, and that was really amazing. I never really much knew much of synthetic data set coming into this project, so that was a great thing to see. And when I kind of did my own dabbling in synthetic data set generation using the AI tools, particularly ChatGPT, also found it interesting how easily it can be generated
Hmm.
and tested. So I think that synthetic data set has a really strong future going forward, just because of how much, um, I say, basic foundation there is in research and tools there is to generate it and research it already.
Hmm.
And with AI in my future career, like Anlu and Orion said, really use it to be use it as a tool to help me be more efficient in my task. But I also wanted to add on that I really want to use it as a tool to improve my strategic thinking,
Mm.
as I think that um, I can't. One of my goals is to not let AI, just completely take over my brain without really doing some critical thinking about it and using it as a tool to improve my strategic thinking so that I can be um I just grow a lot as a professional and as a person.
Very good. Very good. Yeah, you don't want AI to make you less skilled. You want to get more skilled. Great. And Calvin, uh, what surprised you and what does the future look like?
I think I remember we were talking about this before, and I think my answer still stays kind of the same as last time. I feel like we've been living in the digital age for a while now. It's kind of surprising how like we haven't really banded together to find a solution for this,
Mm,
especially like, since like it's 2026. The internet's been around for almost like what, 3 decades now,
yeah.
And like the amount of data that's being transferred around and being shared, like I'm surprised that like most people don't have a way to like mimic the structure of the data, I'd like to say.
Mhm.
In order for like to I guess in order to incorporate or encourage collaboration between like other businesses to like, increase efficiency and all that.
Mm.
Um,
Yeah.
but
How important it is. Why isn't it solved?
yeah, I know. It's like I feel like this is such a big thing. Like this can help out a lot of people, and it's been
Yeah.
however long now, and no one's really like dug their like, teeth into it,
Yeah.
and try to figure out a solution. But in terms of my career, I think AI really is just gonna play like a support role, like everyone else says. Like that's kind of like the only way you can really do it right now, since like AI is in like its infancy stage, and it's
Mm.
gonna need a lot of oversight and managing to like increase the or to improve the LLM models, essentially, to make it more efficient. But I'm
Yeah.
probably just gonna use it to,
Get the job done.
yeah,
Best you
or
can.
help me get the job done. Yeah.
Great. Great. Thanks, Con. Sydney, what surprised you and what does the future look like from your perspective?
I would say the same. It's something that really surprised me was how big of this problem, I guess, is, and how there isn't that many answers or like solutions to this. Like I said, I've talked to my cousin, my older cousin, about this, and he's starting up his own like company, and just we were just talking about it. And he's like, "Oh yeah, like I'm surprised you're learning about this now, blah blah blah." Like,
Good.
oh yeah, maybe you can help me with this. I'm like, oh, I can try. I'm still learning, but I don't know, I just thought it was very interesting how deep this can really go and how
Mhm.
there's not that many solutions for this yet. And I think it was like a really nice bonding experience for us to really talk about this because we are, I think, 8 years apart. So to see this like problem to come up and we're trying to work on it together like right now is very like interesting and cool to see.
Yeah.
And then for my future, yeah, I would say the same. I would just use AI for like more of the tedious work. Um, it is scary how fast AI is growing and it is very unpredictable. It is helpful, but it can be dangerous in a way. So
Right.
I hope I can use AI to really, I guess, push myself and accelerate and kind of get it to where I can use it to my advantage as a tool and not it using me in no sense, if that,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. That makes great sense. Thank you all, and thank you, Sydney, and thanks all. Um, Great job. I will get this recording posted, the blog created, your digital certificates ready. Just make sure I have the final link to the white paper and the presentation that you showed me here, um, so I can get this wrapped up and get you what you need. And I do want to say on behalf, I'll share this recording. I'll share all the material with the ISSIP leadership. As you know, if there's anything that ISSIP can do or I can do to be helpful in your future. Now that I've gotten to know you, thanks again for coming out to the Computer History Museum last week. I hope that was fun. And we'll definitely, I'm happy to stay in touch, and you did a great job. So thank you, team. High five, high 10 to you all. All right, I'll stop the recording